What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Exchange. Mike and I are so excited for today's episode. We are here to talk about the 3 episode premiere of Andor. Everyone's talking about it. It's the talk of the town. Everyone seems to be really loving this series, which is great. But before we get into it, Mike, how are you going today?
You know, for the first time in a while with Star Wars, I feel like my thirst is quenched, my stomach is full, and just to say, I ate good today, so I'm feeling good. How about you, Ari?
I'm very good. I'm still reeling in from it. It was like hard to digest, but in a good way because it's just, man, what a unique Star Wars experience we just witnessed. But yeah, I'm good. I'm keen to get into this all. But yeah, before we do, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating on all the platforms. Do all that. We appreciate it. Anyway, Mike, let's just start with our overall thoughts. What did you think of the 3 episode premiere?
I mean, you said it was a unique experience. I've never experienced Star Wars like this before. I don't think any of us have. I think this is just a different breed of even compared to the Disney Plus series. Like this is just a different breed of Star Wars, and it feels very refreshing. And last week we were talking about on this podcast, we were talking about it being, like a breath of fresh air for all of us with this new show. And I love that there's no cameos. Like we're just invested with the villagers and with the flashback sequences, being really captivated by those. Like I feel like Star Wars just needed a big W, and this is it. Like this is it. Boba Fett. Like I liked parts of it. Embarrassment at the end. Same with Kenobi, and I just feel like we finally. This could totally go another way, but for right now, it's such a promising start. Where it's like, wow, and you know what? I take back what I said. I eat my words. Where I was like, oh man, I'm like kind of like I feel this big conglomerate being thrown at us, right, with this big cluster premiere. But I think it was well needed, and it just we literally hit the ground running with the series, and I just can't to wait to like just talk about it and stuff like that. But I mean, just from the opening scene with Cassian, oh my god, those first 10 minutes, talk about just different. Like it for a for all of this whole experience, it felt like I wasn't even watching Star Wars, which was awesome because it just felt so different. So I don't know, just all the different things. Like it felt also very mature in tone, and also the subject matter that was being presented to the audiences. And the brothel too. The brothel was some fun discussions on I've seen on online, but
Never thought I'd
all
hear that word be said in a Star Wars project.
nor on this podcast, but here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was just a lot of fun, and this is actually the first time you and I are talking about the show because
Yeah.
we're back to not watching it together, but because it comes out for you like at 5 p.m. and it comes out for me at
Yeah.
like 2 a.m. So it's like I'm already asleep by then. So it's like we're barely talking about it now. So yeah, what are your overall thoughts? What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just loved it. It was so great, so unique. Nothing like we've seen before, at least in live action. And because I think, people talk about like, oh, the books, the comics, the animated shows, they have a bit of a license to like be a bit weird, do what they want. But with live action, it's gotten really like vanilla lately. And this is like a whole different flavor, and I'm just loving it. So I just feel like it's the perfect way to do like a modern Star Wars project. And in a way, not to compare the series because I know everyone's going to do that, and they're all very different. However, it's just like it almost makes the other series feel a little bit goofy to me in the sense that they're so focused on these legacy characters, try to continue stories that have been being told for like 45 years. Whereas this is like, no, okay, we have one familiar character, and I'm sure, Mon Mothma will come in and potentially a few others, Saw Gerrera, but for the most part, it's like this is just a new story. It feels like Star Wars, but it's completely different. And I just think, yeah, this is just how you do the modern day Star Wars thing. And I think it just shows that more projects in the future should be focused on new characters, new stories, new environments, because there's there's no pressure on this series to like do well. And that's probably why it's getting so much praise, is because I don't think anyone really expected a lot from this series, and all of a sudden it's come out and it's fantastic. Tony Gilroy's done a fantastic job. But in saying that, I do think people are jumping the gun just a little bit by already saying that this is like the best Star Wars thing Disney have done, all that. just because we've gone from no pressure being on this show to like all the pressure in the world for this to be the best Star Wars thing that's come out in the last decade. So let's hold our horses on that. There's still another 9 episodes to go,
Yeah.
but yeah, not but it was a very promising start. This first arc was just perfect. That's exactly how you should start a series off, specifically a Star Wars series. But yeah, the first 15 minutes had me completely captivated. I just thought it actually reminded me of like the underworld sequences in Falcon and Winter Soldier for some random reason, in a good way. I really liked that, but yeah, I just thought it was done to perfection, and I just yeah, I'm so hyped to see where this goes.
I feel like, I try to, because it was so different. I was trying to like trying to find an equivalent to this show, and I couldn't find, like, at least in the Disney Plus catalog, I could not compare it to anything because this feels like the most
Yeah,
mature thing they've put out. And so I had to like look towards like HBO, and most people are saying that it's like if it has like the HBO series vibe. This is what I put on Twitter after I watched the episodes, the premiere. I was just like, Andor is a drama piece that I have been wanting from Star Wars for so long, totally infatuated with the serious tone, but just as compelled and moved with Cassian's background. Overall, an amazing start to a very
yeah,
promising series. And it's just like, yeah, like finally, like I, the first two episodes, which we'll talk about in a bit, like, let me tell you, there was like no action in them. It was all
yeah,
carried by dialogue and character development. And I love that so much because like we needed this foundation for the third episode to fly. And with the first two episodes, I was like, oh shoot, like I'm in for a treat. And this is what I wanted from Book of Boba Fett. There was so many
yeah,
instances where I just wanted Boba Fett and Fennec to stay in Jabba's palace or in Boba's palace and just talk.
yeah,
And even when they had the crime families around, just talk, give us
yeah,
exposition, move this story along, tell us
yeah.
what's going on in the
Show
syndicates,
some information. Yeah,
give us some information. And this was the reason I say that I was like full after you ate, and you said it was a lot to digest. It was like with the dialogue itself, I needed to turn on the subtitles, and I never do this for Star Wars because I just like looking at it visually and and experiencing it like that, not reading. But I put on the subtitles, and I just was like reading every single line, and every line was like top tier. Like, yeah, I just fell in love with the way this show communicates to the audience. And I even want to go back, and I feel like there's a whole bunch of things I missed. And I just, oh man, there's so much to digest here. And I literally watched. I was just telling Ari this before we hopped on. I watched the first two episodes back to back, and then I was like, okay, I need some breathing room. I know this people are watching this as a movie, but I'm gonna go make myself some breakfast, eat it, and then
oh,
come
interesting.
back and enjoy. So
Yeah,
then the third episode was all about the what the payoff of what had been set up in the first two. And so it was just like a in itself a different experience in the first two episodes, and also a very good way. So yeah, this is, yeah, I mean, people might be shooting themselves in the foot when they say this is like the best thing Star Wars has put out, but at least for premiere wise, I think this is like the strongest thing they put out for all the Disney Plus series.
definitely.
Like,
No, that's a
so
fair thing to say. I think just because you can compare that, we've seen the premiere. It's not going to continue, but this is definitely the best start to a live action series, at least. Yeah.
yes, yes. So
I
I'm,
was gonna
yeah.
say as well, you mentioned the subtitles. We actually had subtitles on, and I couldn't turn them off, and it annoyed me. But then I actually started to like it because there was that much dialogue, and it was hard to follow at times. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, I've only watched them once, but I'm like so eager to jump back in as soon as I can because yeah, I feel like there's so much that I missed just because so much went on. There was so much just like world building in general, and yeah, like there was such a big cast too. I didn't realize there was going to be this many characters, this much going on, a lot of different dynamics with relationships and stuff. But yeah, and of course, I mean the main character of the show, Cassian, is the only character in this that we actually know, and yeah, I already love Cassian like 10 times more than I already did,
Right.
which is good. And it's been said about a million times over the last week from all the media that have already watched the first few episodes. But this is a slow burn, but in the best way possible, I think, because it actually feels like there's some payoff. Whereas you look at some of the other series and you get to the end point and it feels undeserved. It's kind of it's just a bit random. But yeah, this really did set the stakes up. And wait, where you look at an episode like the Book of Boba Fett finale, just all this action just being thrown at you. We see like the Rancor come in and save the day, but you feel nothing because you don't know how the journey to get to that point, you know?
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, that's what I thought of. I'm like, yeah, the whole
yeah.
finale felt very undeserving. But and you know, you mentioned slow burn, and yeah, exactly. Like it was a good slow burn because there's slow burns like what we just read, Princess and Scoundrel, where it just felt like a slow burn at times and not in the best way possible. But like here, it was like you had to go through these moments, and it all just felt like good setup. And I mean, the thing that I thought about was like Netflix's Daredevil, and like there was just some
Mm,
episodes where they were just talking the entire time, but in the next episode like it would lead into something, and I love those episodes, to be honest. And as I said, I really wanted that from Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, man, give me that crime family, syndicate family talking about some stuff. So but we got it here now. We got it with I mean, I was so invested to talk about like those the sector guys, the sector guards, that police force. I
yeah.
was so invested in their in what was going on with them, their conversations, Cassian and Bix. I was so invested as well, and then I was so like appalled in the best way possible because just compared as you said earlier, it just makes the other previous shows that we've gotten goofy, because like this, if you realize like every episode in this show so far has juggled so many concepts, so many topics, so many storylines in those 40
Yeah.
minutes, and it just made it seem like a whole movie. And by the way, visually, I know I'm skipping around here, but visually, the best looking Star Wars we've gotten in a very long
Oh,
time.
for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
get it was just amazing. Like there was not one shot that I'm like, oh, that looks fake, like I did for Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett somewhat.
Yeah.
But like
It's
for
because they
here,
didn't
I
use
was
the
like,
volume.
exactly because they didn't use
Yeah.
the volume, and I'm like, oh, like this just I feel like we were being spoiled. I was like, no way. Like everything just looks so real, and I love how they use like I don't know, like oh, when the ships came out of hyperspace, like I was like, oh, this is the part where it's gonna look like not real. No, this looked like movie quality. So everything, I just have nothing but praise for this series so far. And I heard from people that have watched up to like the sixth episode already that it only gets better. So and they were the
Yeah.
ones hyping up the first three episodes. So I'm like, you know what? I think it's safe to say that this show's going to be something. But yeah, why don't we start
Yeah.
talking about all the little finer details and stuff like that. And
Sure.
by the
Sure.
way, if you're listening or watching on YouTube, comment below what your overall thoughts of the series are. Where it's just it's we're reviewing it not even 24 hours after its debut, and we want to hear your thoughts. So shoot
Yeah.
them down below.
Definitely. Real quick, I just want to add my 2 cents into the visual thing. There was
Mhm.
one shot in particular that just like blew me away because we just have not seen anything like this from the live action shows. It was when we were in the marketplace, it looked like there was about, upwards of 100 extras on set, which they couldn't do that in any of the other shows because they were all using the volume and there's physically not enough room in that tight space for that many people. So, yeah, it looked fantastic. But let's get to let's get to sort of more of the breakdown part of the episode where we start off with the crazy opening sequence like we talked about, and this kind of just immediately showed that this is going to be, I think it's safe to say this is probably the most mature piece of Star Wars we've probably ever seen on screen. Just like the subject matter of everything, and it's not in your face or anything. Like someone who is a bit younger could still watch it. Like you don't really know it's a brothel. They say it is, but like they don't. It's not in your face, And then even when
Right.
Cassian is in a scuffle with the two guards, like it's not all gory. It's still like accessible to a younger audience, but at the same time, it's like it does feel like more mature in the best way. But what did you think of this first 15 minutes?
Just by the as soon as they did the fancy camera work with the lights, I literally
Yeah,
started smiling, and I was like, no way. Like Star Wars finally feels not cheap. Because yeah, sorry to compare, but what we've gotten, it's just like no one ever does this. It's just plain shots and stuff. And they were doing something really fanciful here. And I was just like, oh my God, like we're not even like 2 seconds into the series and I'm already like jumping with joy. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be something different. But yeah, this first opening scene hit me like a tow truck. I was just like enthralled, and like so into the cool scenery that we got, and the also the location card. I was like, oh, finally they bring this back. I think though that when it's helpful and it fits the style of the show, I'm like, why don't they
Yeah.
use them? So
It's a
it
Tony
carried on that.
Gilroy thing.
It's a Tony Gilroy thing because it was carried over from Rogue One. So I was like, oh man, this
Yeah.
is great. But yeah, this whole scene, I literally, I don't usually like to like commentate of what I'm watching when I'm watching it, but I just had to pull out my phone and go on Instagram, go on Google, look up like a shock reaction because that was me throughout literally the first 10 minutes of this. I mean, talk about just when I heard brothel, I was like, no way, like this is where they're going. Holy crap! And I'm very like right away start with the intrigue. Like Cassian's looking for his sister. It's like, oh what? Like he has a sister? What's going on here? For what? And then you get those two guards guys, and it's like it's so many things are racing through your head because as Star Wars fans, we already know we've seen Rogue One and we know what Cassian did in that opening scene. Everyone still talks about that. So it's like, oh, we know what he's gonna do. He's gonna shoot him. But then as the scene progresses, you're like, oh, he's not gonna shoot him. Like he's really scared. And instead of pulling out his gun first, he like headbutts the guy from behind and then does this crazy maneuver and shoots the other guy. And it's like, no way. Like my mouth like just dropped at that whole sequence. And then I'm like, oh, Cassian's not gonna kill him. Like they're gonna show like Cassian like going from good to bad and whatever, like just playing around with the more morality thing. I was like, well, they're gonna play around with it. And then he shoots the guy stone cold in the head. I was like, wow, my mouth literally dropped and I just pulled out my phone. I was like, no way. Like that was class. So yeah, this whole 10 minutes just showed me what this whole series is just going to be about and what the mood is going to be and stuff. And yeah, Cassian Andor, shout out Cassian Andor and Diego Luna's acting in this too. I mean, we talked about it on the pregame show for this and also previous podcasts, and this man absolutely delivered and then some. So yeah, I was fully into this scene and stuff. But what's your take on this? Did you have similar thoughts?
Yeah, no, it definitely like just set the tone immediately, I feel like I don't know, I just love the also like the use of aliens throughout this, like the way when he's walking through like down those stairs towards the brothel and there's those I don't know, there's those weird things in like those orbs and they're like reaching out at him and stuff. I don't know, just random cool things like that in Star Wars just make me happy. But yeah, I don't have a lot to add to what you say, but I just think um, I was honestly a little confused about what was going on with the security guards in terms of like what was their affiliation. I started to get it toward the end because at first I was like, are these guys just stormtroopers that don't wear stormtrooper outfits? But then it's like, no, they're like some corporation that works under the Empire and whatever. But this leads into the next sort of sequence in the first episode where the boss is talking to the guy who I heard this in Star Wars Explained to review. He's pretty much like Dwight Schrute in Star Wars because he's just so desperate for the tiniest bit of power. And as soon as he gets any, he like completely disobeys what his whatever his leader was telling him to do, and goes after goes after Cassian. But yeah, what did you think of that character in the leader of the Blue Side? I've already forgotten his name, but yeah,
It was something like GC or something or organization. Or there's like a G2 or something like that. But no, if you read Inferno Squad, at least in some reference something to modern and canon. If you
yeah,
read Inferno Squad, they have like this whole subplot or integration of like agency like this, a government agency where they like it's like
right,
it's a sector police, so like they'll patrol one sector of the galaxy and stuff. And that I was like, oh, when I saw the trailers, I'm like, oh, this is what this is. They still obey the Empire and stuff, but they're just like a smaller unit of police. So yeah,
yeah.
as soon as this stuff started and this, oh my god, like this whole scene with the acting was great. Again, not one of those cinephiles, but you just when something is good, you just know. And
You
the
say
acting
that, yet
was
every episode you seem to have to say that though,
I
because you're
be,
always talking about
it's
that stuff.
because if I don't say it, then I am a snob. I am a cinephile, and I'm not.
No,
But
it's fair.
literally, the acting was awesome from that older guy. The old guy, like I thought his acting flowed really well with like they just had good chemistry. And I was like, wow, I could just watch a
Yeah,
show of these two idiots. But I thought that setup of the guy like no, 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 we're gonna do this. Like, you are not gonna report it. We're gonna say it was an accident. They were trying to help something out, and they got caught in the way. Like, we're just
Yeah.
gonna, brush this under the rug. And this other idiot is just like, no, we stand for something. This is one of our men. Like, we must stand for it. And then it just
Yeah.
causes this big domino effect that affects the entire town. Which, that third episode, I'm telling you, that was really, 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 really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, this so that sequence, I was just like so into it. And that's the moment I turned on the subtitles. I was like, yep, this is it. Like, I'm sold now. So, and like I
Yeah.
said, never turn on the subtitles for anything, but I just had to here. So yeah,
No,
it
for sure.
was really good.
And what do you think of I don't know if this was talked about previous like to the premiere, but I guess the maybe the overarching story of these first 12 episodes is going to be Cassian looking for his sister. What do you think of that?
um I don't I don't know if it will, like, I hope it's not all the way through. It looks like we're gonna be busy a lot
Yeah,
of the time with Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma going,
definitely.
with all that stuff. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm really invested in that. So if they carry that all the way through and they keep me invested, then I'm cool with it. I just hope that it's not like one of the things Bad Batch did, where it's like, oh, we're playing around with this crosshair thing this episode, but you won't see it until further down the line.
Yeah.
I want him to, like, have moments where he's trying to look for his sister, because I'm thinking of, like, the flashbacks, which we'll talk about. But I'm like, is that his sister? I was like, what's going
Yeah.
on? So I don't know. I mean, that would be cool, because I hope the flashback sequences continue, and I think they will. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then so once we get off of whatever planet we were on, we get to Ferric, which is where Cassian is living. And man, like I said before, so much world building. We meet pretty much the whole cast, or not the whole cast, but a decent amount of it. But yeah, what do you think of them? We met B2, the droid. What do you think of the little droid?
I was like, oh great, another droid in Star Wars, yay! And it's just every time I just get laughed at, or I just get proven wrong, because each droid just captivates me in a way. And B2 is no different. I was just in love with him, and especially that opening sequence. So we went. I love the totally like difference in this. Like, we went from having this really dark scene, and then we just go to this droid, like, joyful music as well playing, and this droid, like, just going about its morning routine or whatever. And I was like, oh great, I just love this. But yeah, I'm in love with B2. And uh yeah, I thought his also his interactions with Marvel were really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love, shout out B2, and I'll probably buy a black series of him one day or something. But
I think that's already out. It came out like a few
no,
months ago. But
I'm late.
yeah, so the thing that sort of progresses the story is Cassian's old. I don't know if he was romantically involved with the woman who was like one of the mains in the episodes. That her jealous boyfriend turns Cassian in, and then that sort of spirals everything. And it kind of it's interesting because it feels like there's high stakes and there's like a lot going on, but it's really like small, tiny events that make the whole story just spiral. And like one bad decision running into those guys, then this guy getting drunk and turning him in. I don't. What did you think of this? Like, I guess.
this this is another example of when I was like, they're juggling so many things here where it feels unreal. Because I mean, look, I'm all for different, shows having different styles. I like having variety in Star Wars. I love having Star Wars Resistance up in the mix, where I can go like, you know what, it's a Sunday morning. I just want some casual thing playing, or watch, and I'll put on Resistance or something. Very rarely, it never happens. Maybe
Yeah, I was
once a
gonna
year, but
say, when does that happen?
it's still an option for me, or
Yeah,
it's still an option. And but like,
yeah,
here it was just like, wow, like, while I appreciate Mandalorian and all the other shows, I'm like, we're not getting like 10 minutes of some dude walking in the desert with cool upbeat music. We're actually getting like, so like, we're just getting layers upon layers in story here. I'm like, finally, like, Star Wars is just
yeah,
maturing a little bit and being able to like talk to like people are in our age group, so it's
yeah,
like, not everything's about Baby Yoda. You don't have to have a whole show slate for Baby Yoda. So this is one
yeah,
of the things where it's like, cool. Like, as soon as the guy started giving Cassian some backhanded comments and stuff, I was like, oh great, this is cool. This is a character to look out for. and then we just got like bits and pieces of him like looking at Cassian, following Bix around, and I was just like, I was just into it. I was like, I wonder where this is gonna end up, and he ended up dead. So I was like, great.
Yeah.
I just love that there's another thread interweaved into, as you said, all these things at play, and like just leading one event leading to the other and to the other. So I'm like, this is great. They're juggling so many things here. It just feels like there's like a brilliant force behind the writing and stuff, because it's a hard thing to do, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
like, great. This is I love how everything flowed into each other and stuff.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I just think overall, like, I think something to note is that Tony Gilroy is like one of the few modern day Star Wars creators that didn't grow up in love with Star Wars. He just is a good writer, a good producer, all that sort of stuff. So I just think I don't know if that has a lot to do with why the writing is so good, but I kind of just have an inkling it does because he's just writing a story, you know. It's he doesn't think, oh, I'm writing a Star Wars story. This is what I've been in love with since I was 6 years old, all that sort of stuff. So I think just generally, like the man just knows how to write good storytelling, you know?
Yeah, and you said it on the pregame show. You said this guy doesn't care about telling a good Star Wars story. He cares about
Yeah,
telling a good story in general. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then I feel like having like that fresh perspective coming in, bringing his talents and bringing his work into here. It's like, yeah, like let's freshen up the place, because we can
yeah,
totally get into if I'm writing a Star Wars story, I'm gonna be like, oh, it's I gotta have a reference to Tatooine. We have to at least say this one time. We have to at least have this sound effect another time.
yeah,
And Tony Gilroy does not care at all. So I'm
yeah,
just like, yeah, do it. And I mean, there's obviously people on the production team that are Star Wars fans. And there's in episode 2, there's a shot of the ghost in the parking lots or whatever. So it's like, okay, cool.
I
Like
did not know that.
there's the ghost there, and it's like, okay, cool. And then there's a shot of this ship that we know from here, and like, oh, these the hounds from Solo. It's like, okay, cool. Like this feels and looks like, actually sometimes it didn't feel like Star Wars, like I said, which was cool, but it does look like Star Wars. So it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, you still have those like familiar elements that you can definitely rest on and still say, hey, Tony Gilroy's making a Star Wars story.
yeah.
So
I think as well, the only like I would say there was absolutely zero fan service throughout all of this, besides one moment which you could consider it fan service, you could not. But I think it was more of just a nod. But when like the creature just like walks past the camera, like the nod to the special edition, that gave me like such a big laugh. I don't know what the intentions were with that. If Tony Gilroy wrote in the script, and then the thing walks past the camera, but
yeah,
I don't know. That was the only thing that I was like, oh, okay, Star Wars thing, Star Wars reference,
yeah,
funny.
Star Wars reference, right?
Yeah. Um. Anyway, though, so we get to see the time grappler guy who we first met at Celebration during that trailer. By the way, someone is definitely going to cosplay that guy at the next convention. I can feel that coming.
Definitely.
But then we get introduced to another antagonist who's the Scottish guy who, by the way, says the first ever swear word I think we've ever heard in Star Wars, which was interesting. I didn't realize 45 years later we needed to hear that, but fair enough. Um, what did you think of that, by the way?
I
Do you
didn't
have
even
any opinion on it?
I listen, I watch a lot of M-rated shows, I guess. So I didn't
Oh,
even
big boy
notice
over
it.
here.
Very big boy, and I wear my big boy pants, and I brought them for Andor. But I literally,
Yeah,
it didn't even phase me. And I checked on
yeah,
Twitter, and someone's like, "Oh, said the first S word in Star Wars." I was like, "Oh crap!" I'm like, I totally missed that because I was just either I was so invested in the story, or it's just like it's just like if it came out in The Mandalorian or Book of Boba or Obi-Wan, I would have been like, what? But because it has that tone already, I'm just expecting stuff like that. I'm
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they said the casual F word. I'd be like, oh, like
yeah,
it just wouldn't phase me.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Random things that, of course, only Star Wars fans will talk about. But we do get we do get this really weird inspirational speech, which I think I don't know what the point of it all was. I just felt like this is the most awkward thing ever, like in a good way though. But um, I feel like what was trying to be said was like it's like, oh, we have all these people going to this small town where I think like there's no issues at this town, but it just strikes me as like this power hungry unit, and like why did you need 12 people to go and like invade this town, go into go into the poor old lady's house, who I forgot her name, tear all
Marva.
their stuff to shreds. Yeah, there you go. There's too many names to remember, by the way. I can't
That's
remember
why I wrote
any
them
of the
down.
names. Yeah. I think the only one I can slightly remember is like, was it Luthen someone?
Luthen
The
Rail, yeah.
Yeah, that guy. I can slightly remember his name. But anyway, and of course, corporates come, they chase Cassian down, and then we get all of the world building, all the dialogue that we saw in the first two episodes. Sort of, we get that payoff with the big action sequence. Luthen and Cassian, get away on the speeder, and yeah, that's how it is. What do you think of the action sequence? I thought that was the first time for a while in Star Wars where I've just watched like a piece of action, and it's just I haven't just like zoned out because I don't know what it is. Recently, I've just been getting real bored of just blasters and lightsabers and all that because I don't think it's been done that well. But I thought this
Yep.
was done perfectly.
Yeah, you're talking about in the third episode, right? That speeder
Yeah,
chase. Yeah.
yeah,
You could have easily had like this cool like still action sequence and have the speeder go off, but I mean, as did you know that that speeder that they like threw out in the open? Did you like suspect that that there was no one manning it?
I assume so, just because like when it blew up, I was like, "Oh, please tell me they're not gonna survive that." But
No, no, I was as it was making its way down. I was like, oh yeah, there's no one in here. I could just tell.
yeah,
And then they like busted out with you heard like this is great. Like you didn't have to see it. I think they threw on like the sound effects of the speeder first, and then they all turn, and then you see them break out, and then you see them like just bye swindle out of there, and then they activate this cool explosion, and I was like,
yeah,
oh my god, just this is great. Yeah, I
yeah, that was
was
epic.
every action sequence, even the one that they released for the Disney Plus day. I didn't have any context to that one, nor did you, or nor did anyone. But I was just
Yeah,
like like just involved in it, where I was like there's so many stakes here, and it's like we all know Cassian dies, but it's just there's like it does every time Cassian gets in a gunfight. I'm like, oh damn, like is he gonna bite the dust? But even though we know he's not, but like
yeah,
there's just so many stakes here for the village, like for Cassian's character, like for Luthen's character, like it's just I've never felt this way about Star Wars in the sense that like I've never been just like moved so much by the tension and just like the espionage story that's slowly building up. Like I've been thrilled. Like I'm like, oh my god, like I'm kind of like on the edge of my seat, like what's gonna happen next? And I've never had that really with Star Wars. Like I
yeah,
think maybe there's maybe like a couple times, but like this has never held my attention like this, where I'm like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen next? Where I'm even worried about Cassian's character. But
yeah,
yeah, like like that speeder chase was really cool and visually awesome. And I'm just like, oh man, if I had more time, I would like totally rewind that and watch that again, just because I'm like, that did not look again fake at all. Like there was no. I'm gonna stop comparing to other shows that we know, but it was just really well done. Like
yeah,
I was satisfied.
for sure. I think another thing that I just wasn't surprised about was when the boyfriend comes in to try and save his girlfriend. I'm sorry, I cannot remember the names for the life of me, but I just knew that guy that guy was going to get shot straight away, which
Oh
of
my
course he
god.
did, and then
Yeah, you just had to know. I mean, and he deserved it too, because I was like, oh, like this jealous boyfriend got in the mix, and it's like, oh, get your feelings under control, dude. Move on. Like, and he just had to like turn. It was a drunk night for him. Turn Cassian in, and I was like, oh, you
yeah,
dog. And then yeah, but that was the way that they still showed Bix like tied up, and I think they actually cut a scene from this episode, because one scene like he like grabs Bix and puts her back against the wall, and then all of a sudden like she's like all like she's chained to the wall, and like she's bleeding now. So I think they
it's
actually
because
cut.
he threw her
Oh,
against
he
the
threw
wall.
her.
Yeah,
It just seemed like I don't know. It just seemed like they maybe cut a scene or something. I don't know, because I was like,
yeah, right,
Where'd that come from? But it could have been that.
yeah,
But yeah, once he shows up and then they shoot him, I was like, cool. And I still like that it wasn't just like, again, the writing. It just doesn't feel lazy. Like it feels like it's self aware. It's like, oh, what
yeah,
do we do from here now? It's like, oh, the guy who gets shot, he gets the guy who shot the boyfriend, he gets his weapon taken away. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, cool. Like we have a moment of tension there where the guard's like, give me your rifle. Like, go get the
yeah,
pod. It's like, okay, cool. Like I love how self-aware this writing is, where it's like,
yeah.
well, every even like the smallest detail counts, for more
Yeah, things
story.
that just
So
randomly happen and then no one talks about it ever,
exactly.
Um, yeah, but anyway, so that's sort of like everything that was going on in the present day. As I said, Luther and Cassian sort of just go off, and then the next arc will continue next week. But the flashbacks, of course, we haven't really touched on yet, which were really good. I thought. I thought all
Oh
the
yeah.
actors, they would have been, I'm guessing, under 18, and they were all fantastic. But we see, of course, how Cassian was separated from his sister. We see the, I guess, leader of that little tribe. She dies, and then yeah, it ultimately leads up to Cassian being saved by, what's her name?
Marva.
Yeah, that's the one. And yeah, and that one thing that I was a little annoyed about is I remember hearing back in the day, oh, Cassian was a separatist. He grew up on a separatist home world, whatever. And that didn't really get mentioned at all, but whatever.
We said that in
But
the
we,
pregame show, even
which one?
in the
Oh, we
pregame
did. Yeah,
show.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did. And then, but yeah, but we do hear Marva and stuff being like, oh no, like, you don't know what the Republic's going to do to these kids, all that sort of stuff, which I thought was cool because obviously in our books, the Republic are the good guys from the Clone Wars and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, overall the flashbacks were good. Do we know if they're going to continue? I'm not sure if they are.
I think we in
Oh, I think they
future,
will.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
clone
yeah,
troopers and stuff. So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that we'll
Yeah,
see them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, what do you think of
Man,
them?
I think this was the heart of the series for me, because all the other
Yeah,
stuff was very, dark, heavy, and stuff, and this was the more lighter stuff. So and they again they're juggling so many things, and they knew maybe Tony Gilroy, the editors, whoever the editor of this was, like they just knew when to cut back to the flashback sequences. And in the third episode, in those like last 5 minutes, God, talk about compelling and being moved by the present day. And I love how it was just slowly building up. Like we would go present day and then back to the past, and they would like those two scenes would have like kind of no relevance to each other, right? And then we finally get to the ending where it was just like totally relevant, and they just like it was just like one hand in hand just going along with each other, and the music as well. I was like, oh my god. But it was cool. I have a little fun fact for everyone. So it was pretty cool how they changed Cassian's home world from what's that planet that he was born on? Damn, they said it so many times in
Nari.
the episode. Kanari, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Kanari.
I only remember
Um,
because of my name.
oh my god. I guess so. But here in Kanari, I love the fact that Cassian, um, so his original name, his birth name was Casa, and what Casa means in Spanish is home. So I was like, oh, that's cool, because I'm like, Cassian just sounds like the widest name in the world, and we have
Yeah.
like this, like this Hispanic guy, and it's just like, oh, Cassian. I was like, okay, Cassian Andor, right?
Yeah.
But when they threw that his original name was Casa, I was like, wow, that is so cool. And Casa in Spanish means home, house. So I was
Right.
like, okay, but just different spelling here. But I was like, that is really cool. But yeah, the whole sequences, I just was like almost like, even though I was like entertained by all the stuff going on presently, I just want to go back and be like, like what's the story there? Like, because obviously we knew which one was Cassian, but I love that they gave Cassian, or this tribe, like an indigenous feel and stuff. And
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
was like, wow, who knew Cassian came from that? So that was really cool. I kind of felt like they paid homage to like him being Mexican or whatever. I don't know. I was like, that's the way I took it, at least. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm like, wow, whole tribe full of Hispanic people. I'm like, love that. So yeah, these whole scenes moved me. Love the tribal music that was going on, and like that last scene in the third episode just really moved me. And I know there's some. Actually, I'll save those for the questions, but because you guys have questions that you guys submitted about some of the things going on in these
Sure.
flashback sequences. But yeah, overall, damn, it was really good, and
Yeah.
it just held my attention. Like you would think, like, oh, like sometimes Book of Boba Fett. Sorry to compare,
Yeah.
but
I was I
we
was
just
just
have
about to
to.
bring up the Book of Boba Fett flashbacks.
It was fighting, like 1 week it was fighting my attention to go back in the past. The next week it was like, no, let's
Right.
go back to the present day. And here it was just equally balanced, where I'm like, I don't care where we are, but I was like, I just want to learn more about Cassian's origin. But it seems like we'll get more of that in the coming weeks. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was kind of annoyed where I was like, what's with the, and obviously not Tony Gilroy's fault. It was all the Lucasfilm group or Lucasfilm story group who, gave Cassian that backstory, and that might have not been the intention with Rogue One and Gary Whitta, the writer, and stuff like that. But that's what just happened, and I don't know how we'll see it play out, but very interesting. Yeah, well, like I said, we'll talk about that in the questions because you guys
Yeah. I
brought some
think
hot questions.
another thing with the flashbacks is like just the way they were integrated into the episodes was just 10 times better than Book of Boba Fett. Once again, sorry to continue to compare them, but like, did it not just flow so nicely? It didn't feel like we had to have like a plot
No,
device like the Bacta tank or anything. It just, the flow was perfect. The way the episodes were cut together was just flawless. Like the lengths of the episode felt really nice, and also to a point where I remember when the first one finished, I was like, oh no way, that's over. Like it went so quick, but like in a good way, because
right.
the editing was great. Like, and even though everyone is saying, "Oh, it's so slow," I think it's paced really well.
It's paced really well, and that's what
Yeah,
the comment I said about the editor earlier was.
yeah,
They just knew when to go back, and it just happened naturally, where it was not like you're being yanked in one way and yanked in the other way. It was just seamless, and you got enough of the flashback to be like, okay, like I'm like, I have some questions, I have some thoughts, and then you would be, thrown back in the present, and then we'd come naturally back and it'd be like, oh, you got to explore more of that. And I love the build up. Like I just love that they treated these first three episodes as like an arc, and one side, one story wrapped up in the present day, and another one wrapped up in the past. So I was like, yes, like that was really well done. It wasn't like
yeah,
a random flashback memory here, random flashback memory there. It was sequential. So that was really nice.
yeah. I think before we get into questions, I just want to say a few random things that I wrote down. The first thing was this just feels like the most down to earth Star Wars thing we've ever seen. Like it just feels like a really like human story, with the
Yes.
way that people connect with each other, the relationships, and even little random things like that guy from the security team like eating space noodles, like it was out of like a box that looked like it came from like like a
A
Chinese
Chinese
restaurant or
restaurant.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I love that. Also, we talked about in the pre-show, people were talking about the aliens, there wasn't enough alien representation. These are some of the best, coolest aliens we've seen. There were some really funny ones. The guy who came in when they were trying to intimidate Cassian, that was genuinely hilarious.
That was great. That was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I thought that was good. And the other thing with the visuals, I think we've already harped on about it, but it really is the closest any Star Wars show has looked to, be like one of the movies. This could have, besides maybe a few shots where I could sort of see the green screen. I couldn't see the green screen, but I could feel, I could see that it was there. Like it really did just like, it felt like only just below being on par with like the movies, which is fantastic. And yeah, a few other just completely random things. I love the diverse ship designs. There were just so many cool ones. One of them looked like a tram. The one that Luthen Rail came in on. Um, the woman telling Cassian that when she was trying to ask him, oh, who have you told that you're from Canary? And then he's like, oh, I don't know, this person, this person. And he's like, what about all your women or whatever? Like, I just thought that was a funny touch. Didn't expect Cassian to get around like that, but I suppose he does. Um,
Hey, hey, hey!
and then
Anybody with a nice beard like that would.
exactly right, exactly right. And then also just the score, super different, similar to something that obviously Mandalorian does so well is having that familiar but different score. And I think this series has done the same thing, but this is even more different. Like those drums at the end of episode 2 was something else. Really loved that. But yeah, anyway, those are just some random things that I wanted to mention.
Cool. I have random things as well.
Let's go.
So so actually I have a question for you because
Yep.
how did you, because when we like, I think, I don't know when it was, maybe when we first came back podcasting, I think it was like our first episode of season 2,
Yeah.
not that long ago. I think we talked about, the whole, the difference between having an espionage type story, political thriller, versus a character study of the character of Andor. How do you
Yeah.
think that the show so far, at least in 3 episodes in, is balancing that, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the political stuff, we just haven't seen any of it yet. All the Mon Mothma stuff seems to that's going to come into play in the hopefully the next arc could be not until the halfway mark of the series. Um, but I think yeah, right now it's been like that. Obviously, there was that sort of espionage type vibe I felt, but I think overall, yeah, the political stuff will come, but I just love the character study. I think it's a great character and it's one worth delving deep into. Like obviously we saw from that I've been interested in Cassian since the first time we saw him shoot that guy at the beginning of Rogue One. I thought, okay, what is this guy's deal? But yeah, so I think overall, so far at least, it's been more of a character study. But and I think that's been great though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I got some political things out of the whole police agency,
True.
just because
Yeah.
they,
Yeah. No,
I
that's
got
true.
some of that, and definitely you feel the rise of fascism in
Yeah.
here. Like that was a major thing where I'm like, it's just. I mean, I think Rebels did a great job of giving us a small scale scope of the day to day life of maybe a Lothal citizen. You kind of got like a preview of that, and then like
Yeah.
as I mean, the first scene of Rebels, you literally have it depends which edition you watch. But if you watch the updated one on Disney Plus, we have that Vader scene. But if you watch the original one that came on Disney Channel and on the DVD, it was literally Ezra hopping on rooftops and catching like some guy selling yogans and the Empire just
Yeah.
being like, no, you gotta have you paid your tax yet or whatever. And you just see how everyone's lives are being affected by the Empire. And here it's
Yeah.
not directly the Empire, and people are confused. No, these guys, these are not the Empire yet. These are not the Empire. It's I mean, the Empire will get to them, right?
Yeah.
But this is just like as we've been saying, a police agency. But like, dude, I was just in love with seeing like the lives the villagers were living and the townspeople and also the people working on on the construction or whatever they were doing
Yeah.
engineering.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that the beautiful scene when and they showed you like in I think it was in episode 2 of the guy hitting the bell or whatever. And they
Yeah.
showed you like him doing it on a regular day and then him doing it like another day, and I was like, oh, here we go again. And it was just like that build up was really nice, and seeing like
Yeah.
some type of like familiarity for the episode. I was like, oh, this is cool. It's like a routine here. We're seeing the routine of the town and people waking up and getting ready for the day. That was really cool. And I especially loved at the episode 3, chills, total chills, when they started just hitting whatever they could to make the
Yeah.
noise. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that was, oh my god, like I just feel like we would never get that in Star Wars, like something so cool like that. I would feel like we would
Yeah.
get that in like John Wick or something, or what, or like a crime drama series. But here it was just like, this is just art. Like I just love that this is here, and it like
Mm,
you can just sit and ponder what that even meant. Were they trying to distract the guards? Were they trying to intimidate them? What
yeah.
and then because then at the end it ended up them using it as like the music for the series, and it just
Yeah.
like we were
I thought it
away
was
from
like
that.
a I thought it was like a warning sign. It was like, if you hear someone doing that, you go and
That
do that, and then the next person will do it, and everyone will do it, and then everyone
No,
knows that they're in
definitely,
trouble. Yeah.
definitely. And then, but then the guys were like, "Oh, this is a form of intimidation," and I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so there's just all these things to it, because then later they were away from all that chaos, and you would still hear it. So I was like, "Oh man, like this is just great." So many moments to love, so many things to talk about. But yeah,
Definitely.
I'm ready to answer
Yep, let's
some
get
little
into it
questions here.
for
So
sure.
all right. The first one comes from Joe Wan Talk, and he writes, why did Marva say those were Republic officers when they had separatist symbols? Did you notice this? Did you
I
notice that?
did not actually.
I noticed it, and I was like, why is Marva just not informed? Like, what's going on? Because on their suits, they have the separatist Confederacy
Wait,
symbol.
why were they all yellow? Sorry, this
I
is so random,
think,
but
no, I think
was it they said there
that's
was a mining accident. Was it related to that?
I maybe there was
Yeah,
I think so. By
yeah,
the way, we didn't even talk about this before, but how cool was it like that this whole world, or at least this tribe, was like living off their own, kind of like Lord of the Flies. I think I read that freshman year of high school, but Lord of the
yeah, right.
Flies style, just all these kids living on their own, and this
Yeah,
thing just crashes out of the sky and it just changes their life forever. Like how
yeah,
crazy is that? Like I was like,
yeah,
as you were saying, like it just feels like so like a human story. I was like,
yeah,
this is really good.
yeah,
So yeah, so there's the sequence happens, and they're wearing like separatist
yeah.
uniforms
Okay,
and stuff. So it's like, what is going
yeah.
on? Why did
I would
Marva
say
say?
yeah, I think it's because I don't know why, but what I would say is that, like we just said before, with they're not random things aren't going to just happen and they're just going to be, oh, well, that happened. I think Tony Gilroy has kind of showed that everything's for a reason. So I'm really hoping that this is explained. And I think it could be as simple as Marva could be misinformed. But that kind of changes my whole mind on everything because I'm like, okay, she
Right.
was fearing the Republic, but those were separatists. So
Right.
quite
Right.
random. Well, I guess we'll find out though. I hope we do.
We will find
Yeah.
out. And yeah, I just say Marva looks well informed on everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe she was just confused. I don't know. But yeah, I would have to say I'm pretty sure she just got confused. Or I mean, I don't know. I don't want to. I want to be on your side, Ari, where it's like, yeah, I feel like everything does happen for a reason, but they just
Yeah.
seem to play into that card of like, oh no, you know what the Republic would do to them or whatever. So I
Yeah.
would. It's yeah. I don't know why. Maybe they were just like they just stole the suits or something. But the next question, leads kind of talks
Sure.
about that.
Let's hear it.
Nick.Ables5 writes, was the crash ship a separatist one? And if so, why was the crew people not droids? And Ari, to that you
Yeah.
say,
I say I have absolutely no idea.
all right, cool. I wanted to answer this one because I saw some
Yeah,
comments
okay.
about it. But
Go.
I mean, go back to Clone Wars heroes on both sides. We hear from Mina Bonteri saying her husband was separatist and he was killed in the war. And it's like, guys, it's not just battle droids. Like there's all these volunteers that fought in the
Right.
war, and
Okay.
we read Dark Disciple and hear more of them and stuff. So it's like, yeah, there's people out there. There's humans and also humans who volunteered on the Republic side and who fought alongside clones. Like there are cases like that. So
Yeah.
I just want to address
Okay.
that because I saw some people saying that, and there could be relief efforts and stuff like that. Like we have like Galen Erso was part of. I'm not Galen Erso. Yeah, Galen Erso, Krennic. They were all part of the Republic before they were even part of before it transformed to the Empire. Like you didn't have to be clones and stuff to fight. So anyways, okay, Kurt underscore the underscore leprechaun. Great name, by the way. They write,
Love it.
is this the darkest we'll see Cassian and he'll slowly get better or still worse times ahead? What do you think, Ari?
Definitely worse times ahead. I would predict. I think he's going to go potentially down a similar path to Saw Gerrera and maybe eventually will be yanked out of that. But look at him in Rogue One. He's not like a fixed man by any means. And I think this is the story of how he got to the point of, going to so obviously like sacrifice his life at Scarif. So I think we're leading into that. And I think it's going to get honestly a lot darker from here. So yeah, I can't see it. It would be almost out of character if he was like redeemed in the show. Like he's still doing all those things that the thing that he did at the very start of this episode is almost the exact same thing he did at the start of Rogue One. You can actually, honestly, what he does at the start of Rogue One is far worse than what he did at the start of this episode. So yeah, that's what I would say. What do you think?
Killed an ally. Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and that's why at the beginning of this the series, I was like, oh, they're gonna play with us, right? We're all used to that, and like that dark Andor, right? He's gonna kill this guy. No, he's not gonna kill him. He's gonna actually give him credit to something because he sounded convincing. Diego Luna's acting, I'm telling you, it was just I was so convinced.
So good. We haven't even really said that, but how good is Diego Luna? Come on, what a guy! He was flawless in Rogue One, and he's just as good here. So
literally, so he just convinced me that he was gonna give him the credits, and I was so surprised. Like my mouth literally dropped. I wish I recorded a reaction to that because I was just like, what? I was mind blown. So yeah, I think it's just only gonna get worse from here. But that's a very good question. All right, next one comes from Robbie, and Robbie writes, "Will it help me get out of the Star Wars rut?" You know what, Robbie? I think Ari and I have been somewhat in a Star Wars rut as well, and at least for me,
very true.
I'm slowly coming back out of it. So I even hung up my Andor poster from Celebration there. So I am like very much like,
let's go.
Yes, I'm excited to be, and welcome to the Andor review show. Like we're back talking about like Star Wars week to week, about a show and stuff. So I'm like ready to be in that like game set. But yeah, Ari, is this helping your little Star Wars hiatus?
Most definitely, and this is like the perfect thing to get you out of a Star Wars rut because it's so familiar but so different at the same time, which we've said 100 times already, but it's true.
Yes. All right, cool. All right. The last question comes from the running statistician, and they write, are we getting too slow and boring with storytelling, or is this fully intriguing you? Well, I think if you listen all the way here, it's completely enthralled us, intrigued us, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely not. This is perfect storytelling. There's genuine payoff. Things don't just happen for any random reason. There's the stakes are there. The yeah, I just no. People are going to continue to say this show is too slow. All that stuff. That's fine. People can say it is slow, but slow is good
So
because
yeah,
we actually it feels like we're actually doing something here. You know.
right.
So no, I'm just honestly so happy with how the show's going so far,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to continue to do
No, me
pretty much
too.
what it's already doing. Yeah.
We didn't this this second episode we didn't be serve as a taxi somewhere and like get in a nest of spiders and stuff, which I still very much like that Mandalorian episode, but like they're doing just something different here. It's not about
Yeah.
and pew pew blasting. It's not about all the action like that. As Ari was saying earlier, like the action like felt so rewarding, right? Like where we were
Yeah.
almost like wanting it, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, we're used to these cheap blaster fights down the hallway and the volume, everything looks so fake. But when we got there, I was like, oh my god, that was great, that was beautiful. So
Yeah.
exactly as Ari said, like it just felt rewarding. And to me, this is just brilliant storytelling. It's modern storytelling that we've gotten from all these cool Netflix series, and like I just want to be proud of Star Wars for once, and with the stories, because like when Stranger Things was coming out, I was like so like, oh my god, this is amazing. And Kenobi, I was like, I thought that one scene was cool, and with Stranger
Yeah.
Things, it was just getting all this praise, and it's great to see Andor getting like that critical praise and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like,
I
yes,
I
like
honestly have I was reading like through review after review last night, and I just can't see a bad word about this show. I was as soon as it finished, I said to my brother, I said, Star Wars fans are gonna hate this series. Like they're not gonna
yep.
like this at all. But people are liking it. I have not
Yeah.
seen anything that bad. I will say on Rotten Tomatoes, it was like 87% critics score and then like a 75% audience score, which 75 is just way too low. But
Oh my
anyway,
god, of
we'll see how
course.
that goes throughout the coming weeks. But yeah, I'm
And
honestly shocked that people are enjoying this because it just
yeah,
doesn't seem like the sort of thing that a Star Wars fan would enjoy. But here we are, all loving it, so which is great. But before we do wrap up, Mike, let's hear what is your overall rating for the episode, as well as what do you think's coming next?
yeah. Overall rating. Wait for this whole
Yeah, just for the whole first
whole
arc.
thing.
Yeah,
Literally, I'd say like a 9 or a 9.5. Like it's up there. Like
yeah,
I think this is one of the best openers that we've gotten to Star Wars ever. And
yeah.
like I said, I think that it was right to release them as all this
Exactly.
together. It was
I
just
have been going on about this forever. Release episodes in chunks like this. It's so much better to watch.
and you just
Imagine watching just the first episode. We would come here and we'd be like, "Oh, it was alright."
yeah.
Oh,
You
but
know,
as a package, it's so
it,
good. It's so good.
we see the picture better, and it's better buzz for the show. Like look at how everyone's
Exactly.
buzzing about it, being like,
Yeah.
wow, that whole ending sequence and everything. So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally think that they should take this route. And in terms of the future, there's things floating around that we might see a familiar senator next week. Don't
Oh yeah.
know, she'll finally come into play. But yeah, I want to get into, now that we've got this set aside, I want to see what the others, the other stuff that's the series has promised us, Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma, and I just want to see more of I want to see where Luthen and Cassian will go. And yeah, like I said, we might go to Coruscant next week. I don't know, but if we do, I'm gonna watch the prequels beforehand, just to get myself back in
Might do the
that
same.
mindset. And actually, Ari and I, before we went to Celebration, we watched like the prequels together, or I
Yeah.
think we watched Phantom Menace together, and then watched the prequels, and then Rogue
Yeah.
One. And so it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, like this it feels like a whole build up to what we're about to experience here now. But how about
Yeah.
you, Ari? What would you rate it, and what do you see coming down the
Yeah.
pipeline of
I
Andor?
think for me, definitely a 9 out of 10. Like it's not like perfection, pure perfection, but it's some of the best styles we've seen in recent times. What's coming next? I mean, I love that we started with the smaller scale story, but I want to see a bit of expansion. I want to see the Empire. I want to see the rebellion. I want to see all that stuff. Can't wait to get into the Mon Mothma story. I don't know if we're going to get that in episode 4, 5, or 6, or even further down the line, but I think that's going to be fantastic. And I just want to spend as much time as we can with Cassian, because now I'm like, oh my god, we only have like 24 episodes, which seems so much, but I'm like, I feel like there's so much to do with this character. And Diego Luna was coming out today saying, yeah, this was probably like, I don't see another reason for me to play Cassian, so this could be it for Diego. So let's hope that it all continues to go the
Yes.
way it's going, because it's been fantastic. But yeah, I think that pretty much just wraps us up for the day.
It does. And thank you everyone for tuning in to our first episode of the Andor After Show. Please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, like Ari said at the top of the show, rate us, subscribe, review us, all that stuff. We really appreciate your support, and especially to the iTunes crowd that are currently reviewing us, giving us 5 stars. Thank you so much. Make sure to leave a review so we know who you are. All right. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like this video, because we're going to be covering Andor for the next couple of months, all the way to US Thanksgiving. So
Yep,
please
that's it.
stay with us as we experience this together. And I think it would be really fun. So do that. Ari, where can the good people find you when you're not talking about Andor?
Yep, follow me on Instagram at Star Wars_exchange. And of course, make sure you follow the podcast page. A lot of funny content on there at the SW Exchange. Get on that.
Yeah, do that. We still have a whole bunch of pictures of our trips or our adventures together in the past
Yeah.
months that we got to post and stuff. So slowly come out. But yeah, check out the Instagram page, because if we'll also be taking your questions on there. Yeah, so next week, if we're on Coruscant, we want to hear your thoughts, questions. So make sure you DM us at the SW Exchange Instagram. As for me, Mike, you guys can find me all_Star Wars on Instagram, Twitter. I'm back on Twitter. I'm tweeting a little bit about Andor as it comes out. I'm giving my take. So if you want to see those, check it out. All right, guys. Until next time, may the force be with you. Adios.
See you later.